You can go.
All right.
I can go. Thank you, sweetie. So we started out living in Bergen County, and we were living in a little residential house in Bergenfield, and we wanted to. We grew a really big garden in our backyard, and then we needed more space, so we planted out the front yard. And then the town told us we couldn't plant vegetables in the front yard, and they told us to rip it out. And I asked them what ordinance that was, and they said, "Oh, that's okay. You can leave them there." But anyways, we decided that we still needed more land, so we started looking for land to buy. And after several years of not finding land to buy, my wife found this property on New Jersey Land Link. No, on Land Link, yeah. And she said, "You need to call this guy, and I'm not looking at another property until you talk to this guy to see about leasing his land." And we talked to Ed Clerico, and met with him and his wife Sue, and we toured the property. And the property had irrigation and deer fencing, and it was smack dab in the middle of suburbia for Western New Jersey, Central New Jersey, and we thought it was perfect. So we moved here and we started raising vegetables, and we were at the NOFA conference 2 years ago, right? I don't know. Anyways, before we even got the land, my wife went to one of the talks about chickens. And so the next thing you know, we had chickens, and we have lots of chickens now. We raise chickens for eggs, and we raise chickens for broilers, and we also have poussin. And then we were last fall we were going to get into the new not last fall before last, we were going to try to get into the Trenton Farmers Market, and we were selling mushrooms at our farm stand that we bought from a friend. And the Trenton Farmers Market says, well, you have to grow your own mushrooms. So we started growing mushrooms. So now we do vegetables and mushrooms and chickens and eggs. And what else?
And these two little precious things hatch out of eggs?
No. They're because of the healthy living and the vegetables and the healthy lifestyle we took on before we ever had a farm. So it's a big part of why we wanted to get into organic farming. We feel that when you're eating good, clean, healthy food, you are healthier. Amazing. We wanted children, and we couldn't have children, and we started eating better, and then we had children.
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship to the farmland that you use and how that works, renting land, right? Because can you talk a little bit about your land arrangement?
Yeah, sure. So we lease just under 38 acres on 2 pieces of property, Carriage Farm and Clerico Farm, which are 2 properties at either end of Clerico Lane. Carriage Farm is more like an office park, but there's a lot of agricultural land around it, pasturage mostly. And that's where we have our farm stand. And then down at Clerico Farm, which is where we live, there's a house that we live in on the farm. And so there's 20 acres down here, right? No, 22 or 23 acres. And a lot of that is 15 acres is across the creek. So we haven't really used it all that much until now. It's hard to get to. And there's no deer fence, and there's a lot of deer pressure because we're surrounded by housing developments, and the deer have no place to go other than here. So we have about 8 acres that's in a deer fence. And we're on a 3-year lease with a renewal coming up, and you know, that doesn't seem to be a problem. So we're you know, planning short, long term. You know, it's like Mike said, it's hard to plan long term when you don't own the land. But you know, it's a lot of the practices that we believe in really require long-term planning. So it's kind of.
I'll ask Al, your mentor, to chime in too, but I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about your adoption of sort of larger scale vegetable production techniques. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the, you know, it seems like from what you've said, you kind of came into it with really no background.
That's right.
But,
I at the time I looked at getting an internship on a farm, but you know, they were offering us a place to live and no money, and I had a job and a house, so there really wasn't much of an option. So we rearranged our entire life so that we could get into farming. You know, we got rid of the mortgage and figured out a way to survive on one income. So
when I was looking for pictures for your stuff, I didn't find much in the realm of photos of the vegetables. And I know how that happens, because when you're growing vegetables, your hands are dirty and you don't have your camera and you're so busy and you're thinking about the next thing anyway.
Yeah.
So, but lots of mushrooms. So mushrooms are obviously something that is really working for you, it seems like.
Mushrooms are doing well for us. I'm just completing a 20-foot shipping container grow room. You know, the electrician's supposed to come in the next week or two and give it a direct line, and then we'll be able to start growing in there. It'll have you know, consistent humidity, consistent temperatures.
You can see our earliest picture of our back.
Oh yeah,
garden.
on the lower left-hand side. That's from our backyard in Bergenfield. Our garlic scapes, and when our backyard was 2/3 garlic one year.
First farm.
Yeah, the biggest challenge was just testing out all kinds of machines, from very small scale farming to a much bigger scale farming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but we have access to a lot of equipment on this farm.
Often say, okay, this tool should be good for us, but after this year we decide to move on much different tool.
Yeah.
So those tools that are available to you, is that an arrangement you have with your landlord, that the tool, you haven't had to go out and buy a tractor, but you do have access to one?
Right. We have in exchange for maintenance and upkeep, we get use of the tractors, since, you know, they're on the farm owns them, and he's not using them for much of anything at all at this point. So other than when they occasionally plant in new rows of hazelnuts. So.
There's Al, your mentor, Al Johnson.
Hey, Al.
One of the founders of NOFA, organic inspector. Al, what kind of things struck you as you got to know Zell and Shuhong?
Well, first of all, they're very nice people. Yeah, and I say that this is a developing relationship, because a typical year I'm all over the state, and my original thought was I'm just going to stop in unexpected a lot of times, because even listening to Scott, some of the things he did with Mike, it sounded like those are things that he kind of learned, just not necessarily planning. I think, you know, the times I have been there, there've been definitely planned operations. I feel like I was going on a tour where, you know, maybe I could have been. That's why I say maybe I could be more productive if I just stopped in, find out, you know, seeing people what they're actually doing at the time. but I do look upon this as more of a long-term relationship that you know, hopefully will continue for years coming. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with their chicken tractor. It's pretty efficient, as well as you know, the mushroom operation. I do see a lot of mushroom operations in my inspection work, and you know, they're doing fine with those. So yeah. Yeah, after you said that, Mike, I said, you know, I should have had my camera out when I visited, because my hands weren't dirty. And I could have helped you guys out a lot. And I'll keep that in mind for the future.
You're always welcome, Al.
Thanks.
One thing that
unexpected.
We definitely want to, we sort of feel like with the pandemic, we didn't really get to do justice with the JourneyPerson. So we're continuing, keeping you on our slate of attention for this coming year.
Al was able to help us out a lot with the we only asked him one real question, and he came through with flying colors for us. We asked about a way to do a trellis, you know, big trellis for cucumbers and beans and melons and all that stuff. And so he sent out an email chain, and we got 3 or 4 different ideas from a bunch of people. And we were able to select the one that worked best for us, and we went ahead with that, and it was great. So we really have to thank you for that, Al.
I'm not seeing chat. Is there any questions that have come up? We could.
Well, I have a question that really pertains to all of the Journey people, as well as I have a question that pertains to all of the mentors. The question for the Journey people is, all of you are surrounded by development. And I'm wondering, what is your interaction with your neighbors? Have they been pleasant and okay with your operation, or have they given you any trouble as to the smell or the activity level or traffic or whatever on your farm? The question that I have for the mentors, I would like to hear more about the input that you had with the Journey people, not just praising them for what they did, but what type of questions did they come to you for? What kind of communication did you have with them? If that could be explained a little bit more fully, I think that people would understand more about the mentor relationship. Yeah.
So that's a big one. Maybe Al, to the trellising. The trellising question was what came up. I think we're at the end of these guys' introductions. So I think what I'll do is we'll move on to Allison for our final introduction, and Stephanie, maybe we can come back to that for the discussion. It seems like there was a couple questions in